No.
No. Hang on.
Testing. Is that better?
Just turn it up a bit for you.
I should tell them at work that you had to turn it up. They say I'm normally very noisy. Testing. Oh, yes. I can hear that. Okay, so the first, just bear with me for a minute. Where's the John reading?
No, it's Hebrews first.
Yeah, but where is the John reading?
Just down there below.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Different colour font. Through me. Okay, so the first reading is from Hebrews chapter 5, verses 5 to 10. So also Christ did not glorify himself in becoming a high priest, but was appointed by the one who said to him, "You are my son, today I have begotten you." As he says also in another place, "You are a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek." In the days of his flesh, Jesus offered up prayers and supplications with loud cries and tears to the one who was able to save him from death, and he was heard because of his reverent submission. Although he was a son, he learned obedience through which he suffered, and having been made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation for all who obey him, having been designated by God a high priest according to the order of Melchizedek. And the next reading is from John chapter 12, verses 20 to 33. Now, among those who went up to worship at the festival were some Greeks. They came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee, and said to him, "Sir, we wish to see Jesus." Philip went and told Andrew. Then Andrew and Philip went and told Jesus. Jesus answered them, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Very truly I tell you, unless a grain of wheat falls to the earth and dies, it remains just a single grain. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Those who love their life lose it, and those who hate their life in this world will keep it for eternal life. Whoever serves me must follow me, and where I am, there will be my servant also. Whoever serves me, the Father will honour. Now, my soul is troubled, and what should I say? Father, save me from this hour? No, for this is the reason I have come to this hour. Father, glorify your name." Then a voice came from heaven, "I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again." The crowd standing there heard it and said it was thunder. Others said, "An angel has spoken to him." Jesus answered, "This voice has come for your sake, not for mine. Now is the judgment of this world. Now the ruler of this world will be driven out. And I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself." He said this to indicate the kind of death he was going to die. This is the word of the Lord.
So, a couple of interesting readings today, although quite challenging to preach on, really. I chose the Hebrews one and then totally regretted it, but I did do some research, and who knows who Melchizedek was? I thought you might.
He was the priest in Jerusalem at the time of Abraham gave him him.
That's it.
He had collected along the way.
Yeah.
And I think this is the first reading we have in the Bible of welcoming guests with bread and wine.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
So there's a few that connection I didn't know about Melchizedek, but I think the whole point of that part of the reading was the writer of the book of Hebrews, which, he's really trying to say that Jesus was acceptable to the people as a high priest, as a person who intercedes with God, because he was at least as good as Melchizedek. He's comparing Jesus with someone who already had lots of status. Anything else in that reading? Well, could unpack it, but I'm not going to today, because there's well and truly enough in our gospel reading from John. And I've got to say, I've got a little sick of death, pain and suffering this Lent. When I came to the gospel reading, which has Jesus ruminating on his death and suffering, and being lifted up and dying like a seed, I thought, what else can I preach about? But then, I guess that is a bit of what Lent is about. It is a time and a set of Bible readings designed to lead us through the tough stuff of God's story towards the cross. Having done all that, I thought I might actually need your help today. We might replay the reading, for which I will need a narrator, so that's me. The narrator's me. A couple of foreigners. We're all foreigners. A couple of foreigners from New Zealand, yeah. You guys can be foreigners. And you get one line, I think, in this. There you go. You can say it together. Yeah. And we need Philip and Andrew. Don't all jump up at once.
Whatever.
We'll do whatever.
I'll do whatever.
Multitask.
Or whatever.
So you're Philip. Andrew? Jesus. Come on, there's lots of people who want to be Jesus. No, probably not coming up to Easter. I'm imagining. Anybody? Before I dob someone in? No, definitely don't want one. Thank you. Now the other part is God. So everybody else who is not taking the part of any of the other parts needs to say the God part really loud, if you don't mind sharing that. We can say the God part really loud together. Sorry, I'm not enough here. Take that. So the important run out of bits of paper. Hang on. You're God too, definitely. So the important thing, one of the important things in this is that when it comes to the voice from heaven, it doesn't say specifically God, but voice from heaven, you people who are saying the voice from heaven bit have to be so loud with it that it's like thunder. Okay? No small task. So can I ask those who have those speaking parts to actually arise and come forward? So, Jesus, you can just hang there. You're sort of a central part here. That's right, we've got one other part. Crowd 1 and crowd 2. Yeah, you can do crowd 1 and crowd 2 after. Yep. Okay. Many people were arriving in Jerusalem for the celebration of the Jewish religious festival known as Passover. When it says many people, thousands upon thousands of people. So a little town that would, a city of Jerusalem that would have been normally fairly crowded, would have been overflowing with people from everywhere. However, not all of the people were Jewish, and one group of foreigners made contact with Philip and said,
"Sir, we would like to meet Jesus."
Philip, who was from the Galilean town of Bethsaida, told Andrew,
Hey Andrew, there's a group of foreigners wanting to see Jesus.
And together they went and told Jesus about the request from the foreign visitors.
Hey, Jesus, there's this group of foreigners, Greek, I think, who want to see you.
On hearing about it, Jesus said,
If the foreigners are asking after us, we have reached the point of no return. The time has come for the new human to be lifted up in all his glory. I kid you not, A grain of wheat is nothing unless it hits the dirt and loses its life. But if it gives up its life as a single grain, it will begin to produce a bumper crop of life. Anyone who prizes their own life above everything else will end up losing the lot. But those who treat their individual survival in this world as a matter of no consequence will find life opening up before them without limit. If any of these people want to apprentice themselves to me, they need to come and stick with me. Those who work for me will be going wherever I go. Whoever works for me will get a thumbs up from God, who conceived me. But at the moment, I'm all churned up inside. Should I call on the Father to bail me out of what is about to happen? No, I can't do that, because what is about to happen is the pinnacle of everything I came to achieve. So then, I call out to God and say, Father, put up your name in lights.
And a voice answered from heaven saying,
Glory to my name. I will do so again.
the crowd who were gathered there heard the voice.
That sounded like thunder.
I reckon that a messenger from God has spoken to them.
This voice has spoken for your benefit, not mine. The world is being weighed in the balance right now, and the one who has been holding in this world will now be driven out. As for me, I will be lifted up off the ground, and when that happens, I will draw all people to myself.
With these words, Jesus gave an indication of the kind of death he was going to die. So, okay, before you go back, Jesus, JC, come back. Please. So how did it feel in the different roles? Like you foreigners, how did you feel in all that?
Yeah, curious. I
Curious.
guess there was a lot going on. A lot of people there, this was reputational.
Yeah.
Just felt, got to go and see what this is all about.
Yep. Did you feel like you got to see what it was all about? What got answered?
Yeah. Well, no, obviously the idea would have been like to met him, but if I'd heard him say, I'm presuming they all heard his words, I don't know, was actually, it would be, if this, well no, this is the moment then.
Yeah.
It'd be like, well, keep an open mind.
Yeah. We don't actually know. The story doesn't say if Jesus was actually responding. It doesn't feel in some ways like Jesus was responding to the foreigners. It seems like Jesus is almost this is almost a very inward conversation of grief, of sadness, but also a determination about what's got to happen. But not really addressed to the two foreigners who've come, and if they were Greeks, they were coming out of a Greek culture and probably wanting words of wisdom from Jesus, and they probably didn't get what they were after. How did it feel like for the disciples?
I really wondered, as I said, there's this group of foreigners, Greeks, I think, and I'm thinking, yeah, I know they were racist at the time. What does it matter if they were foreigners? But of course,
It matters in this instance because it's like one of the points behind the whole reading for John is showing how the spread of Jesus' love, in this case, the act, is actually not just for the Jewish people, but for everyone. So drawing all people to himself is how it ends, and that's a sign of that. Yeah. Candice, any ruminations? No, you're unruminated.
no.
Voice from heaven, what do you think you were saying?
Glory to my name, and I will do so again. It was a bit confusing.
That's curious, isn't it?
I was trying to work it out.
It's a bit like my father when he's, when I was growing up and he was telling me off. I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. It's like God is saying, I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times, this guy has got credibility. He is who he says he is. So, yeah. All right, well, thank you, cast and crew.
Just a question.
Yes.
When was the document for Hebrews written after the event?
Was the document, the Hebrews,
Yes.
as in the book of Hebrews, the
Yes.
Melchizedek thing?
How long after?
How long after? I'm sorry, I don't know an exact date of Hebrews. I do know that the book of Hebrews wasn't written by Paul, according to the scholars, and it was also not written to the Hebrews. It was probably written, probably a sermon or a speech of some sort that was recorded, that was preached to probably people in Rome. So.
Right. I'm thinking in terms of the time how people change when it's passed down by word of mouth or whatever.
Oh yeah. This applies to all of the letters, all of the letters and stuff that are in our New Testament were written before the Gospels. Most of them are earlier in date, so they would have been written before the Gospel story that we just read was read. Yeah. Good. Okay. So it's a little confusing, this whole thing. I don't know about you, but what Jesus said, it has seeds and wheat falling into the dark earth and germinating and breaking through the soil to the light and air as new plants. It's got God speaking out of the air, and most people who hear it don't hear the words but hear it as thunder necessarily. And then, I guess at the heart of it, Jesus reveals himself as the Messiah who is going to be like a mere mortal and is going to die. And he speaks in a sense of gathering gloom, but encourages his followers to keep moving forward while there is enough light to see the way. So he's talking about life, he's talking about his own death, he's talking about how he sits in that and how his followers are to be. I guess at the core of it is that continuing sense that we have through Lent and I guess through our faith, is that Jesus coming as a human being and dying, God dying for us and with us, is a sign of God's being able to identify with us and to hear us and to be close to us in our humanity. In this case, Jesus goes that bit further, doesn't he? He says that us as followers must do the same thing. We've got to be like that kernel, be prepared to be like that kernel of wheat that loses his life, or its life, in order to find it. What do you think that's about? You can't. Letting go. Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. I feel like Jesus is saying that we must be prepared to put what we believe, what our faith is, our faith in God, our faith in the path of justice, a path of love, above our life. In other words, if we come to a point in our life when we can choose to go either way, that we really need to stick to the path of love and of justice, even when it gets tough. Why was that in front of Jesus? Fairly obviously. He's just walked into Jerusalem. He's in the midst of it, in the thick of it, and he knows he's confronting the forces of hatred, of oppression in Israel, and he knows he's going to suffer for it because he's spoken up for those who are suffering, and because he won't shut up about it, because he believes it's more important to follow that through and it's important not to turn back. So where does that leave us? Well, we often think, I think sometimes, of that symbol as being for someone else, but I reckon that metaphor of being able to give up your life is a metaphor also for a life of meaning and a life that means something. It's not necessary to die physically in the process. What is necessary is to let go and give of ourselves, not because there is something in it for us, but because there's something outside of ourselves worth the effort. Perhaps God is calling us to a new thing. It's important to say that it's not necessary to die physically in the process, because one of the problems the early church had was people started taking some of this extremely literally in terms of martyrdom, and that the best way to get to heaven quickly was to get yourself killed. And Paul had to speak up at several points and say, I think you're missing the point here. The point is about how you live as much as about, even more so, than about how you die. I think the whole falling to the ground and dying and becoming a new thing, being willing to put ourselves on the line, is something that I guess a lot of you are doing all the time. It doesn't have to be in big things. It's there in families where parents give up a whole lot of themselves so that their kids can flourish. Where children watch out for and occasionally participate in important decisions for parents as they age. And we see it in congregations where we give up our place for a newcomer, where we welcome children as they are, and when we reach beyond our shyness or our fear to speak to someone who's different to us. I think it is also in every little act of kindness and love. In 1,000 ways and places, we know this to be true. It's not usually big deaths, of course, but small ones along the way which live out the truth of Jesus' words over and over again, and our dying somehow multiplies and results in new life. If you think about it, you probably find it to be true. If you can remember a time when you put kindness and love out into a space where it was unexpected, and you were giving something away, and in return you got something quite unexpected, a whole sense of meaning and the importance of what you were doing. I've got to say, as I said, I really struggled with this whole reading. There's so much and it's so dense. I wanted to bring it back to us. It can seem too big, that task that Jesus sets us, but we all show up as we are. As we die, little by little, we do grow in faith and hope and promise, only not for ourselves alone. This dying is clearly not for our own journeys alone, but for the sake of the other, for the sake of the child, the parent, the grandparent, the neighbour, the stranger, the asylum seeker, all those who make up the whole community of God's love and God's people, and for this world crafted and loved by God. That's the dying and living that Jesus did, and so it's the dying and living that we're called to as well. And in that, the promise of Jesus in the end in all that is that in that sort of dying we will find life. Amen.